Hello, I hope this video finds you well. Today is day 9 of my commitment to record one Codingbat video a night while schools are closed, and regardless if you're a student of mine or someone out there just learning to code, please don't hesitate to send me any questions. The problem we're looking at tonight is notString, so this is contained warmup 1 notString, and I'm doing the Java solution. The Python solution is up there, so you can take a look at that as well. The problem states, given a string, return a new string where not has been added to the front. However, if the string already begins with not, return the string unchanged. And they have a wonderful little note here that says, use the dot equals to compare two strings. And I'll talk about that shortly. Now let's look at the example to make sure we understand how this works. If I invoke notString with the word candy, it returns not candy. And the reason why is because the parameter here, or the argument candy, does not have the word not there, so I have to add it, or concatenate it. If I say notString x, I get not x. Again, the argument x does not have the value not there, so I have to concatenate it. And concatenation is saying when we add strings together. And the third example, notString, not bad. We don't have to do anything, so we just return the string as it is. Now there's three big takeaways that I want you to walk away with this video with. The first one is when we talk about strings, we think of length and index values. So if for example we have string str as hello, hello has a length of 5 and it has indexes 0 to 4. And it's really important to understand this because this is the same across pretty much all languages, but by knowing the index values you can access parts of the string, and by knowing the length you can write code that will dynamically access parts of the string. So for example, if I asked you to access the last letter in the string, in this case you would access the letter at index 4. But if you change the length of the string, that would change. So what we would do is we would access the length minus 1, because notice the last letter is always 1 less than the length. And in this video we're going to have to use what's called the substring function. So if I take, let's assume str is hello, and I do str.substring, and I say 0, 3, that is going to return for me the first 3 letters. The way substring works is it's inclusive, exclusive. So it's going to access 0, 1, 2. That's going to return HEL. Another example could be str.substring, and I could access 2, 5. And again, remember inclusive, exclusive. So I go to 2, so it's L, L, O. L, L, O. And a third example, if I did str.substring, and I did something like 1, 2. Remember inclusive, exclusive, so 1, that's going to return E. Now a really nice idea here is you can always calculate the length of your substring before by taking the second parameter minus the first. So 3 minus 0 is 3, 5 minus 2 is 3, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Now, before I go on, I just want to highlight that if I did something like str substring 2, 6, this will give me what's called an index out of bounds error. And I'm going to simulate this in the problem, but the issue is that I'm trying to access an index that doesn't exist. So if I was to pull this out, it would access index 2, 3, 4, and 5 to give a length of 4. And we can see that 2 is the L, 3 is the L, 4 is the O, there's no index 5. Alright, let's come down here and let's write a solution, shall we? Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say int n equals str.length. So this will calculate the length of the string. And I'm going to write this initially not perfectly. I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to say if, and I want to access the first 3 letters and see if they're the word not. So I'm going to say if str.substring, and to access the first 3 letters I say 0, 3, and I know I'm doing this wrong, but there's a reason for this, dot equals sorry, is equivalent to not. Look at me. So basically, take the first three letters, check if it's equivalent to not. This is wrong, but I want to show you what happens. We're going to return the string as it is, because if not is the first three letters, it's going to remain unchanged. Otherwise, we're going to return not space plus str. If I hit go, you'll see some cases work. But what I want to draw your attention to specifically are these index out of bounds errors. And so what this is saying is that I am trying to access indexes that don't exist. And that actually happens right here. If we look at this example here, we see that the argument is x, and that has a length of 1 and index of 0. So I can't access substring 03. And in Java, this is a runtime error. So what we have to do before we do this is we have to check if the length is greater than or equal to 3. And I'm going to start first by doing this with an if statement. So I'm going to say if length is greater than or equal to 3, and I'm going to put this if statement inside that one. I hit go, and you see it solves most of my problems. I still have an issue. But what happens now is that only if it's greater than or equal to 3, that is the length, do I then pull out that substring. Otherwise, I skip this and just return not str. So now let's address this issue here. Not bad. Well, what's happening here is that it's checking it. And remember I said this here, don't compare strings using equivalents. Use a function. So this will run, but it actually runs incorrectly. It's a really common issue. I have a lot of students who will stare at their code for a long time, and quite frankly, anyone I've done this, and just not see it. You have to use a function. So I'm going to take the substring there, and I'm going to apply the substring to the equals method. So right here, the way this will evaluate is we'll take str, take the substring, so whatever that is, then check is it equal to, and I'm going to pass the word not there. And this will generate a Boolean value. And there you go, the problem solved. So the last thing I'm going to do before we kind of wrap up is I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. And I don't want to write two if statements. What I want to do is I'm going to actually do an and in here. So I'm going to say if len is greater than or equal to 3 and str substring 03 equals not, and you see it works. And this is an example of a short-circuited Boolean expression. Let me explain. You might look at this and say, wait a second, I'm still going to get an index out of bounds error here because it's going to evaluate this entire statement. But it doesn't. If I took these two statements and I reverse them, and I'm going to put and over here, now I get my index out of bounds error. And the reason why is because when this line is evaluated left to right, so it's going to try and access the first three letters and crash. However, when I do it this way, the first thing that happens is I check if length is greater than or equal to 3. And this is where we have what's called a short-circuited conditional statement. What that means is that if this first statement is false, it won't check the second one. And this is something that Java does. And you can think about this logically. If I'm only going to continue if two conditions are true, if I check the first condition and it's false, there's no need to check the second condition. And so by doing the length check first, you're short-circuiting the statement. And a good rule to kind of keep in the back of your mind is, if you are checking the length, always put that as the first thing in your if statement. And that will avoid index out of bounds issues. Well, that was a lot longer than I had planned, but I hoped it was helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.